was a shadow in the government's game. Pawn as a child with no face and no name. They stole my past to leave me cold and alone. Always searching for a place I could call home. I was lost in the dark, just a tool in the hand, till she pulled me close and helped me understand. Now the fire inside is starting to rise. I can see the truth through 1,000 lies. Now I tear through the veil, leave holes in the sky. I can read every thought in the blink of an eye. Danica, my witch, she's the magic in me. Yeah, I finally found what they took from me. With a hellhound beside me, I'm standing my ground. No longer a ghost that's never been found. In the dead of the night, I can hear the call. All the ghosts of my past scratching through the wall. My eyes change colors, the power has grown. With Crowley the hound, I am never alone. I used to be hollow, a man made of glass, but now I am reclaiming every year that has passed. Every memory is falling right back into place. I know every name and I remember every face. Now I tear through the veil, leave holes in the sky. I can read every thought in the blink of an eye. Danica, my witch, she's a magic in me. Yeah, I finally found what they took from me. With a hellhound beside me, I'm standing my ground. No longer a ghost that's never been found. I ain't running no more, yeah, I'm ready to fight. Gonna settle that debt in the depth of the night. They tried to break me, they tried to erase, but they can't hide the blood from the scars on my face. The veil is thin and the engine is hot. I'm taking back everything that they thought I forgot. Now I tear through the veil, leave holes in the sky. I can read every thought in the blink of an eye. Danica, my witch, she's the magic in me. Yeah, I finally found what they took from me. With a hellhound beside me, I'm standing my ground. No longer a ghost that's never been found. I remember it all now. Every single face, I'm calling for you in the dead of the night.
Hello, everybody. My name's Henry, for those of you that's new, and those of you who have subscribers and watching the shows, you already know who I am. Tonight, I'm going to take you back to a little small city in middle of the Midwest called Alton, Illinois. It's one of the most haunted cities in the United States. There ain't so many feet you walk and you can hear a true ghost story of something that took place there. Well, I lived there for a time, and during the day I'd work. At nighttime, if I wasn't too awful pooped, me and the dog would take off, walking the streets, just enjoying the night air in the summer. Well, it just so happens that one particular day I was doing a job building a porch and a ramp for these people. And it took me down there, not far from this big, huge cemetery. And if I remember correctly, it's called the Lovejoy Cemetery. Well, I'd go past there, and it was a big, pretty looking cemetery. far as cemeteries go. I was always kind of fascinated with cemeteries. But anyway, I was up working one day, probably about 7, 8 blocks away from there. And while I was working, the man and wife I was doing the job for come outside and was asking how things were coming along. Coming along good. So I decided to take a smoke break and may just go ahead and take a whole hour for lunch. So I was sitting there shooting the breeze with them. Asked them, I said, what do y'all know about the Lovejoy Cemetery? I was like, we don't like ghosts. We go past there once in a great while, but we don't linger there. Ain't our cup of tea. Heard any stories about that place? I'd already heard some stories, but I wanted to see if maybe I could get a couple of new ones. Now, this is a true story. Well, they wasn't in no big hurry to open up any stories other than to say that place was creepy at nighttime. And all kinds of stuff could be seen there. So, on my way home, I went down bottom of the hill, stopped at the stop sign, went straight on ahead, and come out down there by what is known as Fast 80's Bon Air. And I took my slow, sweet time because there wasn't nobody behind me. Just kind of watching the cemetery as I go along. So, I went on home, which wasn't very far, maybe about 12 blocks, 15. Well, I was feeling kind of restless that night, so I opened up the kennel door inside the house on the dog cage and took the dog out to the bathroom, and I looked down at him and I said, hey, how about a pizza tonight? I had a craving for pizza, don't know why, but it did. Well, Little Caesars, you could get a $5 pizza. I'd get 2 of them, one for him, one for me, because they wasn't very big. He eat that whole damn pizza and helped me eat the rest of mine. So I leashed him up, grabbed me a light, put my hoodie on, and we headed up the road. Well, they had a little plaza up there, and Little Caesars was there on the end. So I went up to the door, and they don't allow pets in there, see. So I opened the door and motioned for one of them to come out there, and they's like, is there a problem? I said, yeah. I need 2 of those $5 pizzas. One for him, and the other one, part of it for him, and the rest for me. I had 2. So she went and got it, rung it up, come back, told me how much it was, and I gave her the money, and we was on our way. Well, we sit out there in that plaza parking lot and watching traffic. They had benches there, and there wasn't nobody else sitting there, so he'd sit on one side of the bench and I sit on the other, and we ate our pizza. Well, we got done, and we walked just about a block over, gas station, and I got a soda and got him a bottle of water. Had to get him a Slim Jim. I don't know what it is with these dogs, but they like their Slim Jim, so I thought for sure he'd be stuffed, but he eat it anyway. Well, we headed on down the road, ended up down there to Lovejoy Cemetery. They have a pretty brick wall there in the front side. Well, you enter through those two big doors. So, doors wasn't locked, so me and the dog went in. Now, what I really went there for was to see if I could see this old chair that had been made by this Indian lady for her husband. And I'm going to tell you the story before I go any further. That way it makes more sense. Back when Alton, Illinois wasn't nothing but just a midway stop for fur traders and trappers, there was a rich man that come there and decided to build him a mansion. He was filthy rich. He come from over there on the East Coast. He brought all that money with him and had a nice wife, and he proceeded to have a big giant mansion built up there on Mansion Row. Well, it took a good little while, and they had lots of people working on it. He finally got her done after a few years, and him and his wife and 2 boys moved in. Well, the missus only got to live there for about 3 years, and she passed away. Well, it made the husband depressed and sad and hardened him on life. So, as you can imagine, he was pretty rough on them 2 boys. He never did get over that. Well, the 2 boys grew up to be fine young men. Well, they knew that eventually they stood to inherit that money, but that didn't change who they were. They were good people. Well, come the time that the dad thought that these boys should get married, so the youngest boy, Dad picked out a fairly nice young lady. Her family come with a little bit of money, and she come with a dowry. So he set up the arrangement, a pre-arranged marriage. Well, the boy wanted to honor the dad and not piss him off. So he agreed to court this lady and marry her. Well, unlike most pre-arranged marriages, they kind of liked each other anyway. So that made it a little better, a little easier. So as time went by and they courted, then they got married in a big ceremony. The dad paid for it all. He showered money on them and gifts. He was pleased that that son honored him and fulfilled that planned marriage to keep the 2 families in money. Well, the younger boy, he was a little more willful, spiteful, hard-headed, and he was going to do what he wanted within reason. He wasn't about to let Daddy pick him out a woman to marry. He thought that should be up to him, no matter how damn much money there was involved. Well, you got to understand, this is way before the Civil War. So there were still Native American people, tribes, living in the area. And for the most part, the settlers and them got along. But every so often there'd be a skirmish and trouble would arise. But for the most part, they kind of got along. Well, this boy would sometimes go out hunting, out along the bluffs and down along the river. Well, one day while he's out there, his horse got spooked by a snake. The horse reared one time and the boy hung on. The second time that horse reared, lost his footing and fell over backwards on top of the guy, the young man. Well, the whole time, this Native American woman was watching from afar. Well, her people were good horsemen. So the horse rolled off, stood up, took off, and get away from that snake. Well, she caught the horse, calmed it down, went over there, and she killed that snake. And she didn't speak real good English, but she could speak a little. So she got the horse calmed down. She knelt down beside him, and she said, "What are you hurt?" The boy said his upper leg. Well, she had two choices. Take him back to her tribe and see if they can mend it, or take him to one of the English sawbones, the old doctors, where they could mend it. So she decided to break the cardinal rule, being a young Indian lady. She proceeded to go and find two big long poles. Then she grabbed some blankets, tied them to those poles, because she knew she couldn't get him up on that horse with his leg in the shape it was in, so she had to make a stretcher. And she took some ropes that she had and fastened it to the horse. She proceeded to help him up, and she gave him a big long stick so he could kind of lean on it as she helped him along to get him onto that stretcher that she had made. Well, he would retch and pain and curse a little bit, spit. She finally got him over there on top of the stretcher and tried to get him as comfortable as possible. Well, at first sight, they was hooked. The love bug done bit them square in the keister. He was smitten with her and she was smitten with him, but they had to take care of the business at hand of getting him back because of his leg. So she reaches into her little pouch there and pulls out a piece of buffalo hide that had been turned into jerky and told him, she said, kind of bouncy, "I'll try to go easy leading the horse, but you put this here between your teeth and your mouth and you bite down on that." Because she said, "I'm not supposed to go to where your people is without one of my people escorting me." He said, if my people find out, catch us, there's probably going to be trouble. So he nodded, he understood, and he took that piece of jerky, that old buffalo jerky, put it in his mouth. He bite down on it, and he said he was ready. Well, she started leading that horse, and of course he clamped down with his teeth on that big old thing of jerky. And it hurt him bad, but every time he wanted to scream, he'd just bite down as not drawing attention. So she took him on up into Alton. Of course, back in those days, there was an on-call doctor, kind of, so to speak. House doctor. He was also the dentist, amongst other things, veterinarian sometimes. And he traveled. Well, just so happens he had made it into town. Now, back in those days, some of them doctors might have been at a poker game after they delivered a baby, got drunk, and get on their horse and ride that horse to the next town. Sometimes by the time they get to the next town, they be sobered up. Sometimes not. Well, they wound around to the few houses that was there and pulled up to the building, little house where the doctor was. There was his horse tied up. So she pulled up close as she could and got underneath his arm and put her arm around his waist and give him his stick. And he still had that jerky in his mouth. She went to help him up and he bit down on it and kind of retched a little bit. She helped him get to the door and nobody had come to the door. So that meant one of two things. Either he was busy in there and didn't see him, or he was drunk. Well, she got him to the door, and she didn't know the custom, so he knocked on the door. Then he reached down and opened it up, and they hobbled in. Well, the doctor come out of the back room, and he goes, what seems to be the problem? Well, again, she didn't speak a whole lot of English. But she kept motioning to his leg, and she would go, ouch, pain. So he asked the guy, he said, what happened? He said, well, the horse reared up twice. On the second time, it fell over on my leg, and I think it's broke. So the doctor said, well, can you put any weight on it? He goes, no, it just gives out. He goes, well, it sounds like it's broke. So he took the man in there and asked him, he said, do you feel okay enough for me to pull the boot off? Or you want me to just split the pants from the ankle all the way up to the hip and we just peel them off, just roll them off? He said, whatever you got to do. He said, it would make checking you out a lot better if I could see that. So the Indian maid, she stayed right there, holding on to his hand. So the doctor got out the pair of scissors and cut up from the boot all the way up to where the belt goes. Then he did the same thing on the other side. He looked around and he goes, tell me if this hurts. And he started feeling around with his hands, and that poor guy let out a war whoop. He goes, yep, I can feel this broke. So he pulled a jerky out of his mouth and he goes, "So, what do we do?" And he goes, "Put a splint on it." They didn't have casts back in those days. Not at these small outposts. You had to go to the big cities, New York, place like that. So, doctor goes in there and digs through the closet and finds a huge pair of baggy pants. So he puts the suspenders on them and he gets the guy all splintered up, pulls them pants on him. He said, "I know they're a little bit big, but that's the best I can do. You can just send them back anytime. You don't even have to worry about washing them all. I got a maid that washes." He goes, "You got a maid?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, "It's my wife." "Didn't know you was married." "Yeah." So he said something in Native American, and this dark-haired lady come in there, hair down by her waist, dressed all in buckskins, and he goes, "Doc, you mind if I ask you a question?" He said, "A lot of people frown on things like that. How long y'all been married?" He goes, "Well, 3 years coming this July." And he goes, "And the people accept it?" He goes, "Yeah, we get along just fine." He said, "If you love each other, it don't matter what other people think or say. They just better not say it to my face and come wanting doctoring." He goes, "But people don't say nothing." He goes, "Not to my face." And he goes, "It wouldn't matter if they did, as long as they don't say it to my face." She helps me here in this doctor's office. Plus, she's my wife at home. She travels with me, delivering babies and such. Never hardly leaves my side. Takes real good care of me. He goes, "Doc, what would you say if I parted with a secret?" He goes, "Well, what's the secret?" "I just met her. She was there when I got thrown from the horse. She went against her tribe just to come help me. It was love at first sight." He goes, "Do you even know what love is, boy? Love is, you're down hurt, she helps take care of you. And after that, she got down and you would take care of her. You love each other through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And along the way, there's going to be a few bumps in the road, and it's how you deal with those bumps. Do you grow from it, or do you grow apart?" Boys, I ain't never seen nobody so beautiful in my life. He's when it sounds to me like you better go talk to her dad and mom, talk to the chief, and ask for her hand in marriage. He goes, "I just can't imagine my life without her. She could have left me back there along the dirt there, along the bluff. But she decided to take a chance, take the risk. Even brought me here. There she is, still sitting there." He goes, "And what's her take on the situation?" He goes, "Well, I hope the same thing. But she knew enough English that she kind of put together what they was talking about, and she's over there smiling. Got her braids on, little pigtail braids. She's got buckskin on, boots plumb up to her knees, probably made out of buffalo skin or deer hide. Had the beads around her neck. Every so often she'd look up and smile. He goes, well, from the looks of things, you two got it bad. Old Cupid drawed back, shot 2 arrows. One hit you and one hit her. You just need to go home, tell your dad that you found your love and that's who you're going to marry, and that's the way it is. Are you afraid to be without money? Are you afraid your dad will kick your ass to the curb? He goes, I just can't marry somebody that my dad picks out. I found something right here that come out of nowhere. I didn't even expect it. He said, well, sometimes when your back's against the wall, you just gotta say, what the hell? Do what you think is right for you. Don't let other people make your choices. And then let the chips fall where they may. If you two love each other, you'll be able to withstand that and anything else anybody throws at you. So, the boy thought about it a little bit. He goes, well, I don't think it's me you should be talking to. You better be talking to her before you talk to anybody. So, he spoke her name. She smiled and looked down at him. And he goes, I'm hoping you can understand what I'm going to say. She nodded her head. He goes, I just don't think, I know we just met, but I don't think I could live without you. When we leave here, would you take me home to my dad? And I'm going to tell him that you're the one I want to court. Well, she felt the same way. She smiled, got a big old smile from ear to ear. And she nodded her head, and he goes, you do understand? She nodded her head again. And he goes, we'll do the ceremony, one with your tribe, since, can't get the two together. We'll do a ceremony with your tribe and get married. Then, so my dad and brother can be involved, we'll have another one there at the home place. Now, whether she understood that part or not, nobody knows, but she nodded her head. So they got everything ready, and the doctor helped the little Indian maiden get him out there to the stretcher, and down the road they went to his house to tell his dad and his brother. His dad had a big, huge house. Big, huge mansion. Why, it was the envy of the whole entire town. What little bit of town there was. Well, later on, Alton would grow up around that area and sprawl out this way and that way and that way and this way. But back then, it was just a small trading post. And some people had the sight to know that this place was in a good spot and it was going to grow. So these rich people come there and started what was the foundation for a city. Later on, it grew and grew and continued to grow. Still growing today. At one time, Alton was bigger than St. Louis. And now here's one for you to grow on. Believe it or not, before Alton got too awful big, they had a professional ball team. Yep, they did. It's called the Alton Browns. Then St. Louis started growing because Alton was a lot bigger at that time than St. Louis ever thought about being. St. Louis started building up, and next thing you know, they had a diocese in Alton, but when St. Louis started getting bigger, the diocese went from Alton, moved to St. Louis. And those people down there was envious because Alton was smaller than them now. They had a professional ball team called the Alton Browns. So St. Louis got jealous. They ended up talking that ball team to come to St. Louis. Then they sold that ball team to, I think, Cincinnati. And they was back then the Cincinnati Browns. And of course, as you know, the Cardinals come in, and there we go. Well, anyway, back to the story. They go through the wilderness and end up at this boy's dad's house. And she is just awestruck on how big this... To her, it must have looked like a castle, if you could imagine what a castle was. And the boy said, "Don't let that fool you. Don't let that bother you." But she wasn't. She was awestruck that these people could live in this big, huge, giant building. It's beautiful. So, of course, the dad and the brother come running out to see what's going on. The dad didn't even stop to acknowledge that this Indian lady found his son, took him to the doctor, brought him home, knowing she could get in trouble by the tribe and her parents. Why, it could start a war. Just something minute as that. Well, the brother stopped, and he reached out, and she kind of looked down like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "It's customary for our culture to shake hands to thank somebody." So she put her hand out, and he took her hand in both his hands and shook her hand, and he was thanking her up one side and down the other, and he asked her name. She told him. He told her his name, and then he introduced his wife to her. But she's feeling kind of comfortable now, you know. She knows she ain't going to get in trouble and start a war. The dad was a little different. His wife's death caused him to be hard, nasty, ornery, and mean, and a bigot. He's down there asking the boy what happened, and the boy's explaining. He goes, "Dad, this maiden here, if it wasn't for her, I'd probably still be laying down there by the river. She come to my rescue and got me to the doctor. She even made this here drag, made sure I was okay, and she even brought me here against her parents' rule and the chief's rule. Don't you think that we should make things right?" The dad said, "Yeah, I am." He goes, "So are you gonna give her something for her trouble?" "Yeah, I'm gonna let her leave here without saying a cross word." And the boy goes, "Well, I see how it's gonna go then. Might as well just go ahead and get the news over with. And he goes, oh yeah, what's the news? I want to court her. Dad put his hands in his vest pocket and looked at him and he said, you sure you want to do that, boy? He said, yeah. Fell in love with her as soon as I seen her. He goes, and you know that ain't done. He goes, well, I'm willing to take my chances with her people. She took her chances by bringing me here, knowing I was going to ask you. Dad says, if you do it, I will cut you smooth the hell out and kick your ass to the curb. I will disown you. The boy looked at him and he said, couldn't even stay here to heal? Nope. You sleep out in the barn. Boy said, well, Dad, I love you. But this time I'm going to have my way. I never did do anything you didn't ask me. But this is the one time I'm going to have the one thing that I want with or without your blessing. The older brother was like, are you sure you want to do this? He said, yes. Well, his older brother was like, wow, he must be serious. He's willing to throw everything away, the money, everything, just to marry this lady that he fell in love with. So the older brother tells the younger one, he said, let me talk to Dad and see if I can kind of smooth things over. Just be quiet. So the dad turned around and headed back up the walkway to the house. The older brother ran up there and caught up with him, and his wife was explaining to the Indian maiden that he's just upset. You know, his wife died a few years ago, and he's just been hard and cold. He'll come around. My husband will smooth things over. She ain't looking too promising about this, you know. She didn't see him changing anytime soon. So the older brother's talking to the dad, trying to explain to him, calm him down, and try to kind of make amends, mend the fence. Dad, he wasn't having no part of it. He said, I said no, by God, and no is it. He's dead to my eyes. He's just as dead as your mother. The boy said, that's your last word, Dad? He goes, this is the last time I'm going to acknowledge that he is my son and alive. And with that, he moved the older boy over and he hollered down there at him. You take your Indian maid and you get the hell off my property, or I will remove you physically, hurt or not. Get the hell off my land and don't come back. What the hell's the boy gonna do? Then the old man turned around and told the oldest son, your house is on my property that I had built for you. I best not catch him in your house. He can go out there and sleep with the snakes, the squirrels, the deer, or he can go back to her damn tribe. Stay there. He don't exist. So the brother went and told the younger brother. He said, let's just get you out there underneath the shade tree. As soon as it gets dark, we'll sneak you into our house. And he goes, nope. I don't think so. Not today, not tonight, not tomorrow, not the next day. Nothing against you, brother. Dad spoke. So he turned over and looked to the Indian lady and he said, ma'am, do you think your tribe would accept a wounded white man? She goes, well, you know, our people, we take care of one another. If I say it's okay, they'll accept you. So with that, he said, well, then take me home. So she turned the horse around and off they go. Up and down through the hills and the hollers, and ever so often a painful yelp from him. But eventually they made it to where the tribe was camped. She said, now, there's a spot here that's the threshold to the camp. We gotta sit here for a minute and wait. My parents coming, chief's coming, some other people coming. He says, I'll explain and then I can take you on into our camp. But because you're an outsider, they have to be the ones to okay it, and they will. It's just our customs. He said, I understand. So here come her parents and a whole bunch of people. Kids, grown-ups, old people, young people. Because they was fascinated. But she proceeded to explain in her tongue, her language, to her parents. Her parents kind of looked like they was shocked, but they was going to be okay with it. So they turned and spoke in their language to the chief. The elders talked a little bit, and Chief walked over there and squatted down and looked at that leg. And he goes, so you're choosing one of our people from our tribe over your tribe? Of course, it's in broken language. He goes, yes, sir. I chose her. The chief didn't know what to say. He looked down at him and kind of cracked a little smile, and he said, you know, it's a special day when a white man, his own people don't want him, but he still wants to be part of our tribe. There may still be hope for our two peoples, our tribes. The boy goes, well, if you're counting on my dad, it'd be a cold day in hell. But he said, we ain't all like that. So they got him into the camp and got him set up in a teepee. And over the next few months, he starts healing and gets up where he's hobbling along on a homemade crutch. Well, the father and mother-in-law, they was like, so when do you plan to marry? He goes, soon as this leg's mended, where I can stand up without any help from anybody, we're going to get married. He goes, but until then, I'm going to stay here and recuperate. I'll try to understand you guys' ways and abide by them. I won't go out there and hunt unless it benefits the whole tribe whenever I get better. Whatever I have is yours. He said, I probably won't have very much because my dad said I'm dead to him. Well, the old Indian looked at him kind of in shock. We don't do things like that here. So, several months pass, and he's trying to use that leg. Eventually he got strong enough that he could stand with that cane. Then it got to where he could stand without the cane. Then it got to where he could walk a short distance without the cane, but he still had kind of a limp. He would have that for the rest of his life. Well, that spring came. He saddled a horse. Gonna take his girlfriend for a ride. He was gonna go ask his dad one last time. They went up through the hills and the holler and through the woods, across a couple branches, and before long they was at his dad's property. Well, the brother's standing there and his wife. And they was wondering, did he go off and die or what? Well, they run up there and give both of them a big old hug. And said, Dad'll be glad to see you. He's probably been worried, but he ain't gonna let it show. Well, all of a sudden, that big house door flung open. And there this old coot is, standing there with a double-barrel shotgun. His head was blood red from being very angry. And he walked out there and he said, I thought I told you, spook, ghost. Don't come back on my property and don't bring that with you. You're dead. Just like your mother, laying up yonder in that big cemetery. You should just go up there and lay down and stay there. Now get off my property. He goes, but Dad, we're going to get married, and you're going to regret this. The older brother begged and pleaded with the father, and the father was set in his ways. He wasn't having no part of it. Get off my property. The Indian maid had tears running down her cheek. Boy spun the horse around easy, and they walked off. Got to the end of that little roadway there. The brother and his wife run down to where they was at, and they pleaded and begged. And he goes, nope. I'll never set foot, and I'll never look that son of a bitch in the eyes until he's flat on his back dead. And even then, I won't attend that funeral up close. Nothing against you, brother, and nothing against your wife. I'm dead to his eyes, so he's dead to mine. And with that, he gave the horse a little kick and back through the hills and hollers, back to her tribe. It wasn't long, and honeysuckle started to bloom, and they got married. Right up on top of that big bluff. Nowadays on that bluff, there's a big park up there called Overview Park. Beautiful park. You look across there on a clear day and you can see right into St. Louis. You can see that big old silver arch just sparkling. All them skyscrapers back over there, across the river and them bottoms. They got married up there, and it was one hell of a party. There was tears of joy. Why, there was even some homemade wines. Like some dandelion wine, gooseberry wine, blackberry wine. And the old peace pipe was passed around, toked on by everybody, including the bride and the groom. There was gifts, too. There was hides and skins, furs, different spices given to the Indian maiden. And for the guy, there was a peace pipe, a homemade bone knife, and some real Indian leathers. So he'd feel more comfortable in the tribe and not stick out like a sore thumb. They even painted his horse, like that horse was getting ready to go into battle. Well, they decided that they had put him a teepee up there where they got married, and they would just stay there, and the tribe would ride off and go back to camp. But they would leave some warriors, make sure nothing happened, but far enough out of sight they had their privacy. Well, there was his big old tall quarter horse and her painted pony. Why, he told her, he said, I don't know how your custom is, but our custom is, you get married, you got to carry the wife through the threshold. She wasn't sure what he was meaning. He scooped down there and picked her little body up in his arms, and she laughed all the way. Got the tent, she flipped the opening open, and they went in. Well, love was in the air. Things were really good for these two. He got along with the tribe, and the tribe got along with him, and they learned from each other. And as the two learned from each other, the Indian maiden and her husband, their love grew. They would go on rides and walks together up through the hills, talk. She would explain things about the tribe and their beliefs, and he'd try to explain to her about things in his world. And they'd laugh and stare at each other and smile. They always walk away in each other's arms, holding hands and hugging. Sometimes they'd walk and he'd have his hand around her and he'd be explaining things and she'd tell him about the dogwood trees. Maybe about the songbirds up there sitting in a tree singing, or the lovebirds. They had a good time all them years. Days led into weeks, weeks led into months. years led into years. Well, several years had passed, and they'd some time to go and meet his brother and his wife and catch up on times and what was going on in there and what was going on back at the tribe. And they stayed close. His brother and his wife, they accepted her as his wife. They was good with it. The only one that wasn't good with it was old Daddy. He was just a mean, old, tired, bad-tempered cuss. There wasn't no help for him. He was too far gone. He was one of those dogs that was so miserable, he'd been better off just go up there in that grave, lay down beside the wife, because he wasn't no more alive than she was up there in that hole. So by now, Alton started growing. There was riverboats stopping, letting people off, taking people on, taking livestock. Well, at one time there, they had about 15 of them big old giant paddle wheel boats lined up there and unloading goods and loading goods on and unloading people and loading people on. And every time you could hear them big old air horns, steam horns, sound off. And you'd hear that pipe organ music playing on each one of them big, pretty white boats. Big red paddle wheels on the back. Every so often you'd hear some of the loaders down there whistling or singing as they was working. Well, they watched as Alton grew, and as it grew, the cemetery grew too. Because there's all the time people, babies being born, and there are people dying. Well, about 20 years passed. He decided he'd give it one more try. So him and his bride, they rode up to the house, and the brother's like, "What are you doing?" "We're going to try to make one more amends." He said, "Well, good luck to you, brother, but he's gotten more cantankerous and a lot more meaner." They rode up to the door. The boy got off and helped his bride down. They knocked on that door, and again, the dad answered with a shotgun. He sticks that shotgun right in that boy's chest and proceeded to tell him, "I don't talk to ghosts. Get." But that boy got on his horse, and he helped that Indian maiden, his wife, up on the back, and they started down that driveway. Just about to the end of the driveway, and the dad pulls up and shoots in the air, and that horse starts crow hopping. Darn near it spills both of them out right there in the brush. But the boy gets him calmed down, and they go on their merry way back to camp. Well, several years passed. Alton's starting to grow into a kind of a town. Well, one day, while back at the camp, the brothers showed up on horseback. Well, the Indians didn't know what the hell was going on. They just knew there was an intruder coming into their camp without being formally welcomed. Well, at first, they went on the defense, and the brother was trying to explain, and the other brother heard him and come running. He said, "You gotta come. Dad's dying." And he goes, "Sorry, brother. Nothing against you. I'm dead in his eyes. He's dead in mine." He said, "But Dad was asking for you." And he goes, "No, he wasn't. It's too late for me and him. But it's never too late for me and you." And he goes, "You've always been my brother. No matter what Dad said." And he said, "So you won't come?" And he goes, "No. I'll be at the funeral. But I won't be standing beside you or sitting beside you. I'll be back there leaned against a tree. So I'll be there. You just let me know when." He goes back, and sometime after that, Dad died. So the oldest boy, he makes the arrangement, and they start digging the hole up there at Lovejoy Cemetery in Alton. He rides out and to the Indian camp again and tells the brother, "Saturday is going to be the funeral." He goes, "I'll meet you at the cemetery." And he goes, "You sure you won't come?" "No. Nothing against you. It's against him." He said, "Well, I'll see you at the Lovejoy Cemetery." So, the boy rides off. Well, come Saturday, the Indian maid and her husband, they headed for Lovejoy Cemetery, and they're waiting there for the body to be brought through and casket be lowered down. Well, here comes the procession. They come down through the cemetery and up near some shady oaks. They're on a hillside. The wagon come to a rest. They picked up the casket, carried it to the hole, and laid the ropes across and lowered the casket down. The one brother and his wife that stayed in good with Dad, they tossed a few flowers in that they'd picked along the way. They threw a handful of dirt, said a few words, started to leave so the gravediggers could do their job and fill the hole in. Well, they went over on this hillside, and there was the brother watching him and his Indian bride. He goes, "Do you want to help me pick out the monument for Dad?" "Nope." He goes, "Well, Dad's dead now, being buried over there. He left everything to me, but I want to give you half of everything, including the house. If you want to move in, you and your wife want to move in that house, it's yours." He goes, "Nope." He goes, "What about the money?" "Don't have no need for it." He said, "Well, it'll always be here for you. Change your mind. You need anything, the money's here. That house will always be yours and your wife's." Well, years pass, and as we know in history, the white man kept pushing the red man out. Well, they hadn't made it there yet, but they was making their rounds. He was trying to explain to his wife, with more Europeans coming in, he was going to keep pushing till her peoples was put on a reservation. But his dad had like 500 acres. So he went to his brother and he goes, you know, you offered me the house and property. And he goes, it's still here for you. He goes, what would you say if I bring her people and let them set up camp, because they're eventually going to run them out into reservations? He said, well, that's totally up to you. Those people was good to you. They was good to me. They're your wife's people and your people. Sure. So he met camp, talked to him, and they set up camp on these people's property. Just try to keep the peace. Well, him and her moved into that big house, and they even had some people come in and live with them inside that big, giant house. They had so many rooms. Everybody got along great. And one day, the husband decided to go out and hunt some wild birds. Well, there was an accident that day. The horse lost its footing and broke its leg. They had to put it down. He had re-broke that same leg that he had broke years before. Well, fever set in and it wasn't healing right, and infection set in. He passed away that fall. Well, his wife wanted to honor him in their tradition. So she had a big chair made out of wood. They dipped her in concrete. That's the marker they put up there. And that chair is still there in the Lovejoy Cemetery. The dad is buried way over there across the hill. And right there by the mausoleum, that big huge mausoleum, not far from there, that's where the boy is buried. It was a big to-do. Everybody in the surrounding areas come to pay tribute to this man for being so kind. They even paid tribute to her. Everybody liked her because she took care of this man when his own father didn't even want him. I know what that's like. My wife knows what that's like too. They brought in this big chair that had been dipped in concrete and all this viney stuff on it, and real pretty. It's still pretty today. She had that put there. A few years after that, she went home with him. She passed away too. She grieved herself to death. Well, as we know, the Native Americans, they were taken off to these different reservations, and white man screwed them over. Well, you're probably wondering what the spooky part of this is. It's coming up. Later on, the brother passed away and times moved up to present day. Any given night, if you're not scared of the dark and scared of ghosts, you go into that cemetery not far from that mausoleum. Go there during the day and locate the chair. And then go back in there at nighttime. Don't tear up nothing. Go back in there at nighttime and you set just a little ways off from that chair. And you'll see a white horse. The brother is buried there by his brother. But the dad is on the far end of that cemetery across the hill. You'll see that white horse. You'll see a white man and his wife riding a horse across that hill down below, coming up to that chair. And you'll see that Indian maiden and her husband standing there. And you'll also see that old man across way over there, still cursing his sons. So the battle continues. And it plays over and over every single night. I've seen it with my own eyes because me and my dog went there and I seen it. I was dozed off there underneath the big monument there, the Lovejoy Monument, which is like 3 or 4 big tall poles, and they got eagles on top. There's benches up there too, you can go up there and sit. Me and my dog was sitting there after eating those pizzas, and him eating his damn Slim Jim. And I was sitting there about ready to doze off. The dog was curled up on this bench. And I swear damn, I heard a horse whinny and then snort. And when I looked up, there was that white horse coming through the cemetery. And you could hear them hooves clack, clack, clack. And I looked in the direction these two was looking. A man and a woman on this white horse, dressed in 18 period clothes. 1800 period clothes. And I look in the direction that they're looking and going. There's that husband, this guy's brother, sitting in this chair, this monument chair, and his Indian bride is standing beside him. And I hear this cussing going on, cursing. And I look far into the cemetery. And there's that little fat bald-headed man, the dad, cursing, not one boy, but both. Now, until he can get it through his head and accept it, this will keep playing on and on every night until hell freezes over at the end of time. However, that man was so stubborn, I don't think that'll ever happen. So if you ever get down there, you look for that, go there during the day and you look for that chair. It's right there as you come in from the left side, which would be the west side of the cemetery. You come through those big gates, it's not far from there. Just walk straight into those gates and walk straight in that cemetery. You'll come across that big chair. There ain't none other like it in the cemetery. It's the only one of its kind there. Then you mill around, find his brother on down the hill down there. You keep going, and his dad is up on the hill. Every night, that guy's brother and his wife ride that white horse up to visit with his brother and his Indian bride. And the dad raising 7 kind of hell every night. He has to keep replaying that till he can make amends. But I don't ever see that happening. I ain't the only one that's seen it. Lots of people live along there has witnessed the same thing. They come out their house to walk their dog or go for a walk themselves. Hear an old fat bald-headed man raising some kind of hell in a cemetery. Now how in the hell can the rest of those people get any rest inside that cemetery with this fat bald-headed man bitching at his son? But until then, people around there, till hell freezes over or he shuts his mouth and accepts the fact they all gonna have to keep hearing this, the living and the dead. But it's a true story. You can look this up. Well, that's all I got to say about that. Until the next time, y'all have a good night, get some rest, be good to one another. If you like anything I said, like my stories, give me a thumbs up. Give me a like. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you want to leave me a message, that'd be good too. So this is Henry going to say goodnight for tonight. Y'all be safe. I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for watching.